Hi, friends. I love essential oils because they are God's designed plant-based medicine. I have been using them for over 35 years, and by far doTERRA is my favorite brand. After using another company to save money for years, I realized that because of doTERRA's unmatched potency, I only needed 1 drop instead of the 3 to 5 drops I was using before, which is crazy. I've used essential oils for everything from hormone balance to gut infections, viral bacterial infections to fevers, scrapes, cramps, bruises, you name it. I love knowing I have safe, natural solutions for my family. And in fact, my kids love them so much that from teens to young adults, they all ask for their own sets, which is awesome. doTERRA also goes through rigorous third-party testing to ensure pure, powerful, and effective oils just as God intended. If you are ready to start your own plant-based medicine cabinet, check out the link to my favorite essential oils in the show notes. And now let's get back to the show. Welcome back to Everyday Health for the Christian Woman. Today's episode is for the woman who loves Jesus, shows up for everyone, tries to take care of her health, and still feels exhausted, overwhelmed, and confused about why she's so tired. If you've ever thought, I'm doing what I'm supposed to, so why does this feel so hard? This conversation is for you. Today, I'm joined by Erin Harrigan, author of the book Redefining Hustle, Navigating Success with Jesus. Erin is a biblical business coach who works with high-achieving Christian women who are capable, responsible, and deeply committed to their faith, yet still find themselves carrying stress, pressure, and the belief that everything depends on them. And let me tell you, if you are not in business, this is still for you because every single one of us is leading somebody. So what I respect about Erin is that she's not just teaching theory. She has walked this and is walking this out personally. And here's what I see in my health practice every day. When women live in pressure mode long enough, the body eventually starts speaking what the heart has been telling you all along. Signs like fatigue, anxiety, sleep issues, bloating, and stubborn weight. So today we're talking about hustle, pressure, and why being driven doesn't always mean that you are aligned with God's best for you. And guess what? Letting Jesus lead can restore not just peace, but also real physical resilience. So lean in and listen to my interview with Erin. Hi, Erin. Thank you so much for being with me here on Everyday Health for the Christian Woman.
Amber, it's an honor to be your guest. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So first, I want to hear a little bit about you. I want to hear a bit about yourself, about your family, and even where you live. Just tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So I am a wife of 32 years, an empty nest mom. I have 2 daughters, 28 and 26. One lives not far from us here in Southern Maryland, and the other one is in the heart of New York City. And I love where we live along the Chesapeake Bay down in what we call Southern Maryland. And we have a Bernedoodle, Rory, who is super fun and funny. And I have been walking with the Lord. This year will be 12 years. I gave my life to Christ personally. Started my relationship with him. Well, he started his relationship with me. I just said yes.
Yes.
At the age of 46. So it'll be 12 years this fall. And while I knew God before that, I never had a personal relationship with him. So that has significantly changed everything. My marriage, my motherhood, my business, all of it.
Yes. Okay. So first of all, I used to live in Southern Maryland. I did. I lived in California, Maryland.
Stop it. That's so crazy. So we live in Calvert County. So it's like 40 miles long. We're at the north end of the county. So that's at the south end and across the bridge.
Yes.
And I have been blessed to have great business besties, if you will, down in that area. And so my daughter lives just in Calvert on this side of the bridge, but her not husband yet, they'll be married in May. He works down near Pax River. That's so funny.
Yeah, my dad was stationed at Patuxent River. So yes, that's so funny. That's I didn't even know that. So look at that.
So you grew up down here?
Well, I didn't. I'm an Air Force brat, and so I'm from California. So we joked when we were like, and then we lived in California, Maryland.
Yeah.
So,
right.
but now I live in Georgia. No, it is not the same. No, it is not. But it is. so beautiful and was one of my favorite places to live. So you're right. I bet you love living there. I want to live there again.
We
So
do.
beautiful. That is
Yeah.
awesome. And you're going to be a mother-in-law soon. That's exciting.
Yes. Yeah.
That's very exciting.
We are just I can't even believe we are 3.5 months out.
Yes.
And we absolutely love him. He and my husband are golf buddies. My husband got him into golf on a trip that we took the kids on. And so that's a lot of fun. And it's been fun, like the Lord has guided them, but it's just been fun to watch it unfold. And now to see it all happen, it's going to be amazing.
It is. That's exciting. It's an exciting new stage of life because I am a mother-in-law and I'm also a grandma of 2. Yeah. So it is exciting. I love it. A lot of changes. Yeah. So we're going to hop right into talking about your book, Redefining Hustle, Navigating Success with Jesus. And so I love that because you said that after giving your life to the Lord, that radically changed how you live your whole life. And I couldn't agree more. It's so true. So I would love to know the why behind this book.
Well, the why is, one is obedience. I mean, that's just, when I wrote my first book in 2020, the very next question, it's kind of like when you get married, the next question is, when are you having kids? Yes. When you write a book, the next question is, what's the next book, right? And I didn't really have an intention for the next book. I, again, was obedient the first time. And then he had me create a journal in 2024. But I was sensing kind of in 2022, the shifting. My first book was very much about pursuing success. And I thought at the time that's where he wanted me to take it. And it's my story, but also sort of a workbook of what did it look like when the Lord began to transform how I view and do business. This book, Redefining Hustle, has really come out of a framework that he's had me talking about since 2022. How do we, as his ambitious daughters, embrace the fact that, one, he made us ambitious. That's not an accident. And that, two, we can be ambitious and surrendered at the same time. And so as I started talking about that a lot on my podcast and through my coaching, it was 2024, actually. He was like, okay, it's time to write this book. So the why is, 1, obedience. 2, it is to equip women who are busy, because we like to be busy, who are walking out the assignments that he's given us, to go even deeper in understanding what it means to let Jesus lead. And so the subtitle is Navigating Success with Jesus, because as much as we love him and as much as we want to do all the things his way, we still tend to hold on. We still tend to want to control it all. So the why was really this equipping that I could sense that he wanted his daughters to know that the issue is not hustle. The issue is how the world has commandeered it and defined it. And that we can emulate how Jesus worked without relinquishing the ambition that we've been given. So those really are the 2 whys.
I love it. Because so much of life is obedience. I love that. It really is obedience.
All of life is obedience.
I know. It's interesting because when I was a teenager and started walking with the Lord, I just was like, Jesus, I'm going to follow you wherever you take me. And I just thought it was just going to be this skipping through the tulips and, rainbows and stuff. It's just lovely all the time. And they're having so many lovely parts, but there is a lot of it's an act of my will, obeying the Lord. So something you said is that, God makes us, he made us, he's making us ambitious, but not for business as usual. So what does that mean for the woman who already just feels so stretched thin? What does that look like? Like in just like day-to-day living?
Day-to-day living, I think the challenge that we have is that we're really good in our faith and we're really good in our business and we don't always integrate them. We don't harmonize them, right? Because we think it has to be a balance. And I don't believe in balance because the scales are never balanced.
Yeah.
What it looks like is how are we physically starting and ending our day with him? How are we laying our work, whatever that work is? I wrote this book originally thinking this is for women in business, but it's really for women who lead. They lead in life. They lead in their family, not in grabbing the lead from their husbands as a spiritual leader, but they're leading, right? They're leading their kids. Maybe they're leading in an organization. Maybe they're leading a volunteer army, whatever that is. And so it is the daily laying down It is the daily surrender of that assignment to the Lord. It is the daily, like, I wrote my to-do list, but it's really not mine to do. It's his, and he could wipe it all out and say, just do one thing. So it looks like that. Yeah. It looks like in the book, I talk about 5 spiritual disciplines, which are really instructions from Jesus, which is abiding, seeking, resting, praying, working, right? And so it is taking these spiritual disciplines and constantly, consistently being before him and being in prayer and understanding that prayer doesn't have to be like locked in the prayer closet in the beautiful war room. It's like I'm driving down the road to the grocery store and the radio is off because I'm having a conversation with him. That's the practicality of it. And I think for us women who tend to be high achieving, that seems almost too simple, that the enemy would want you to think, well, that's being lazy.
Yes. And it's so true. It's not.
It's not.
No.
It's absolutely not.
Yes, I love how you said, you have your to-do list. And it's so interesting. We were just talking about this at the table this morning with one of our teenagers about how, we make our plans, but the Lord, he establishes our thoughts. He directs our steps. And it's so hard for somebody like me who loves to make plans and then I watch them all go by the wayside. And it's so true, because then if we're not careful, we can flip to the other extreme and just be like, well, why make any plans? Why? They don't go, but it's just so important to make your plans under the headship of the Lord and allow him to direct your steps. So I love that. Yeah. I love that. Go ahead.
And Amber, I just wanted to touch on that for a minute, because part of the reason I believe he gave me this framework and this content to write about is that what I started to see in probably 2022 is this backlash against hustle. But the pendulum, as it always does, swung to the other side, right? So then it became anti-hustle.
Yes.
But that doesn't equate in my brain. That doesn't make sense in my brain, the anti-hustle.
Yes.
And so, yes, we have to make our plans, and yes, we have to lay them down. But you're right. It's not about like, okay, Lord, I don't know what, just take me where you're taking me, which is true. And
yes.
What is the last thing he gave us to do? And have we done it obediently, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
No, that's so true. That's so true, because I'm an extremist, and I deal with, and it's so funny. Every woman I work with in my business, they are the woman that most people want working with them, volunteering at their schools, serving at their church, because they are so motivated. But inwardly, they are just dying because they're exhausted. Their stress is just through the roof. Their health is plummeting. So I love how you use the metaphor as Jesus as your GPS. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So long ago, the Lord gave me this idea of a GPS, and how, like, we look to the GPS. It's a global positioning system, right? And I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm also like, yeah, okay, GPS, whatever, I'm going this way, right?
Yes.
And what he showed me was, besides showing me that we are sheep and God love us, like, sheep are dumb. They just are.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Yes. And so, but there's a freedom in being the sheep, because we are guided. We are hemmed in by his holiness. And so he showed me, like, Jesus is our great positioning shepherd. Yeah. He leads us in all the places, right? If we think of Psalm 23, where David is talking about, like, he leads me into green pastures and he leads me beside cool waters. Like, that is not, like you said, we're just wandering through the tulips. Like, a shepherd knows the craggy rock and the dangerous slopes and the best and safest path for his sheep to get to the cool water and to get to the green pastures. And so Jesus is our great positioning shepherd, our GPS. And again, the enemy wants to fight us and say, what do you mean you're saying you're dumb? You're talking bad about yourself. You see how he twists it? Or what do you mean you're going to take a break in this green pasture? No, you got to keep going. Yeah. But our GPS, our great positioning shepherd, knows what we need and when we need it. And he's always leading us for our best. Yeah. I think if we could embrace that we are the sheep and his sheep hear his voice, then we would be much more surrendered and much more peaceful and probably more impactful in the kingdom.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I love how the Psalm 23, I mean, is one of my favorite Psalms. And if you have never read A Shepherd's Look at Psalm 23, it's amazing because it's written by a shepherd. And I love how you said that even there are those times where he takes us by the still waters to restore us. And there is nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with once in a while saying no. If it's not God's best for you and it's not his best yes for you in any area of your life, like it's okay to be still, to know that he is God and to allow him to work in you because we have no idea what's next. We have no idea, we have no idea what's next. And so to really just have that quiet heart in the midst of the busyness. And it is amazing. Like we actually can have a quiet, still heart, even while we are busy and we are doing things and it is amazing how it does start. It starts in our minds. I mean, in our minds and then our hearts, that connection. So something about that, how you said about how the enemy loves to just kind of attack us, right? When we are being still by the still waters. So, which kind of leads to that, sometimes just busyness is almost addictive. So why do you feel like so many women are addicted to that? Addicted to the busyness?
Well, I don't know a lot about brain chemistry, not a neurology major, but there are things that happen in our brain like that. That is a true and accurate and biblically scientific statement that there is something that happens in the chemicals in our brain when we are in motion and when we're getting things done. I mean, I'm a to-do list girl. I check the boxes. If I do something that's not on the list, I write it on the list just so I can check the box.
Just because it's on the list. Yeah.
So there truly is a reward, if you will, in our brains when we're busy and we're getting things done. And the challenge is, are we being busy for busy's sake? Or are we doing the things that the Lord has given us to do? Because two things. One, not all good things are God things.
Nope.
They're not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And two, are we wrapping our identity and our effectiveness in our productivity? But yet the things we're checking off our list aren't actually moving our assignment forward. Right. Yeah. It's kind of like if I think as a mom for a long time, long ago before Jesus, my kids would be playing and I would be in the room and I would still be on my phone doing work. And so in my mind, I'm like, oh, but I'm here. I'm being present, but I'm not being present because I'm on my phone, right? What's pulling me away from actually being present with my kids? And I think the busyness makes us feel useful. It makes us feel needed. It makes us feel productive. And that's not always the best use of our time. And I don't know if you've heard this, and maybe your listeners have. Recently I read this, that busy has been said to stand for buried under Satan's yoke.
I love that. Yes. I mean, I couldn't agree more.
I've
never heard that. Yeah.
I hadn't heard it either. And so I'm like, wait a minute. Why am I busy in this moment? Why?
Yes.
So
I think
it's so true. A reward from being busy.
Yeah, no, because so often we tie our identity to busy, because I know even for me and what I've seen in so many of my clients that come to me is that when they're not busy, they start getting depressed. They start maybe feeling a little down and stuff when they're not busy. And it's amazing how there's the busier seasons, but there are the times where they're quieter, and both are needed and both are just as productive, even if we don't feel like, we're getting all this stuff done and everything. So something that you say, you challenge women to stop defining themselves by titles, productivity, and roles. So what do you encourage your readers to be defining ourselves by instead?
Well, what the word says about us, right? There's a tool that I use with my clients. It's called the I am tool. And what it means is I direct them to different parts of the scripture, mainly starting in Ephesians 1 and 2 to say, what does this say about me? Who does this say I am? And words like chosen and redeemed and predestined, right? That is who we are. That is what our identity is. And the issue with tying our identity, Amber, to productivity or revenue or size of our client list or following or our roles, our titles, etc., is that then what happens when those change? Because some of them are going to change, right? When you go from wife to mom to empty nest, the roles change. The way you interact with your husband and your children changes, right? If you have a job change, if you get let go from a job, if the standards of the world are always changing. And so if that's what we're anchored to, we're going to go down under the water so fast. But where our identity is and the only authority to define who we are is the Lord. He created us. Who better to define us? And so I encourage and I believe equip women to remember that he is the one that defines us, period. End of statement. Like I could say nothing else, but also like, here's what it says in scripture. So this is where the proof is. It's not Erin saying it, like this is what the Lord says, right? And if we can remember that, then when things change, which they will, because they do, then we're not so brokenhearted or we're not so downtrodden or we're not so hard on ourselves or we're not listening to the enemy say, oh, you're a failure. Yep. We can go, oh, no, that doesn't define me. He defines me.
Yes.
That's just a shift in assignment.
Yes. 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 I couldn't agree more, because I think as you were saying that, I was thinking about just the different ways that women, we can tend to identify ourselves. And when all of a sudden those change, then even like health, right? Women who are struggling with different health struggles, how often do you hear them identify themselves by that health struggle, but that's not our identity. And same with mother, stay-at-home mom, or, empty nester, all of those things. If those are our identity, then our identity will then shift. And that is like standing on shifty sand instead of building our lives on the rock. And so we want to be built on the rock. So yes, let's build our lives on the rock. This was so encouraging, wasn't it? If you found it just as encouraging as I did, would you please leave us a comment, follow us, share it with a friend. And if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit the little bell. So if today's conversation kind of hit you, and maybe you even felt like, oh, that's me, I want you to know that your exhaustion is not just because you're lazy, undisciplined, or failing. Often it's because you have been very strong for a long time. Both Erin and I see this again and again. So this week, I want to invite you to ask one simple question. Jesus, where am I pushing where you're inviting me to trust? And also, I wanted to let you know that Erin has so graciously created a devotional just for you to help you begin releasing pressure and inviting Jesus into the places where you've been carrying too much. You'll find the link to that devotional in the show notes. And I really encourage you to take a few quiet minutes with it this week. And if your body has been sending signals like fatigue, bloating, anxiety, stubborn weight, hormone imbalance, that's not just something to ignore or shame yourself for. That's your body asking for support and saying, let's get to the root. I've also linked my free symptom quiz in the show notes. When you take the quiz, you'll receive a personalized results video from me explaining what your symptoms may be pointing to and what your next steps could be. In our next episode, we're talking about something every woman experiences: why healing, growth, change take longer than we expect. Has anybody else ever been there? I know I have. And how to trust God when you feel stuck or behind. So join us next time for episode 2 of this 3-part series.